should I? EIP. Okay, fine, great. So good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Start. Hi. Good afternoon, good evening. Actually, that's more like it. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for those of you who are here. And I'm sure some people are going to be tuning in and watching this on YouTube. So welcome, everybody. Before I begin, I have 3 questions that I want to ask you. The first question is, how many of us have felt that we are not good enough to live our own dreams? The second question is, how many of us have second-guessed ourselves when we are trying to achieve our dreams or our targets? Second-guess ourselves. So we doubt ourselves. All right? Yeah. And then the third question is, how many of us feel that, as people, we are not good enough people, so we are kind of good for nothing people. So, if the answers to all of these 3 questions makes you feel that you want to put your hand up and say, yes, it's me, it's my story, then, today you're supposed to listen to me because this is the topic, typically meant for you. So my topic today is we create our own limiting beliefs. And basically, no matter how successful you are in your personal, in your social, and in your professional lives, right? There are always moments where we tend to doubt ourselves. And when we doubt ourselves, it's not a very nice feeling because all the success and all the achievements that we've had in the past, it all comes, crashing down. Yes, a lot of us, many a times, we pull our socks up and we continue on that journey, running behind what we want, all right? But that doubtful time is a very sad time, a very bad time for all of us because it has the ability, a very powerful ability of pulling us down, okay? And a lot of times we give in to that, all right? Now, this is a part of life. All right, life basically has ups and downs, all right? And I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm going to share a little bit of what my thoughts and what my opinions are all about, okay? So before I continue on my topic, which is, we create our own limiting beliefs, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, right? So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Subash Sequeira, right? I am an inspirational, speaker. I'm a coach, a life coach. I also do corporate trainings, workshops for certain organizations. But basically, my main aim and focus in life is to help people overcoming their limiting beliefs that they have. You see, everybody, no matter how good and how successful they are, they all have a past, all right? All of us have a past, all right? And a lot of times, sometimes we try to sweep the past under the carpet, all right, to just let it go. We tend to ignore it. But it tends to catch up with us at different moments of time, all right? So I help people to overcome that so that they can live more productive, more successful lives. And I basically look at, people living better lives on a personal, on a social, and on a professional level as well, all right? So my talk is a small part of the kind of work that I do, all right? And over the past 2 decades, I have helped more than 2,500 people, to overcome their limiting beliefs and to live much better lives. Now, I need your permission, okay, for you to excuse me if I cough a little bit because I have a throat infection, and the doctors actually told me not to talk. So I hope I'm clear enough, for those of you who are here. And of course, for the lady who's recording this. And if I cough a bit, then, I would like to apologize right now in advance. So please excuse me for that, all right? Now, my topic on, limiting beliefs, I am not just going to go ahead and say, you know what, this is point 1, this is point 2, this is point 3, okay? I want to do a little bit of a twist, right? From the time we were children, we've always loved stories. So is it okay that I, tell this to you with a little bit of stories in bit? Yeah? So it's not actually stories, but these are inspirational instances of people across the world, all right? And everybody, of course, loves stories, all right? So I'm going to start telling you the story of an interesting person, an Indian, all right? He was born to a Parsi family, all right, on the 5th of September 1946. Though his parents, moved on to Zanzibar, which is in Africa, which was a British colony at that time. He spent most of his childhood out here in India, and of course, getting his basic education done. And his name was, what was his name? His name was Farooq Balsara. I keep forgetting his name, right? Farooq Balsara. Now, Farooq Balsara was a very unique child. Okay, he started to learn how to play, piano at the age of 7, and when he was at boarding school in Panchgani, which is not very far from Bombay, his classmates remember that by the time he was 12, he had the unique ability of listening to the radio and playing exactly what he heard. Right? So he had the gift of actually playing music, very well on the piano. All right. Now, when he finished his, basic education, his school education in India, he joined his family in Zanzibar, and then in Zanzibar there was something that was known as the Zanzibar Revolution, which was their own fight for freedom, and this was sometime in 1964. So the family basically left everything that they had in Zanzibar, and they went to England, right, to stay out there. During this time, Farooq was about 17, 18, 19 years old, all right? And because he loved music, he started, he continued working with music. He continued playing. He continued trying to sing, trying to write songs. And he joined a number of bands, but, his inner desire was still not satiated. He still was not a very happy person. At the same point of time, he was trying to be independent. So he did a lot of odd jobs. He worked in departmental stores. He worked at the airport. He worked in restaurants and stuff like that. All right. And then finally, he formed a small group, which later on began to be known as the very famous rock and roll band known as Queen. All right. And this was in 1971. So for those of you who are here, so this was Farooq Balsara as a kid, and this is him, all right? Now, this Farooq Balsara that I'm talking about, he rechristened himself. So when he was in school, he decided to call himself Freddie. And by the time his band Queen was formed, he rechristened himself as Freddie Mercury. And this is Freddie Mercury basically in action, all right? He was by far, he's no more, but he was by far one of the world's best rock and roll singers. Right? A lot of us in India don't actually, believe or see the Indian connection. All right, but he was not just a very good singer, but he was also, an album producer, and he was a songwriter. Right? Now, why are we talking about Freddie today? Right? Because Freddie teaches us that we need to have a clearly defined goal. And what a clearly defined goal does is, it's like a destination that we need to go to. All right. So very often I turn around and say, it's like I need to go for a holiday. So where do I decide to go? So for example, if I say that I want to go to Jaipur, okay, then Jaipur is my destination. Now, because I'm in Bombay, I will not move anywhere else. I will go straight up north towards Jaipur, right? But the speed at which you travel also shows the amount of clarity you have, okay, in terms of what is your focus and what is your goal in life. So when I say you need to have a clearly defined goal, you need to know the specifics of it. As far as Farooq was concerned, he knew that it was not just about music, but it is about him singing. And he was by far one of the best singers. So, they actually are still debating upon what his vocal range was, because a lot of opera singers are not able to, are still not able to achieve the vocal range that he had. All right. Now, if we don't have a very clear and well-defined goal, I feel that it is more like a dirt road. You know, in village or very often to the rural areas, you have what we call in India kacha road, a mud road. So it's like that. And that dusty road has a lot of bumps. It's not at all smooth. And once you start, traveling on it, you get frustrated. All right? You get very irritated. And there's a lot of dust going all around. You dare not put the window of your car down to peep outside because all the dust is going to come in. All right? And you need to be protected. But if you have a clearly defined goal, it's more like the expressway or a highway. Smooth, clear roads. No possibility of anything coming in. Yes, you will have intersections, and at those intersections you will have, signages to go to a right or left to another city, all right? And you can have distractions, but if you're extremely focused, you will stick to your destination by itself, all right? And that is exactly what Farrukh Balsara or Freddie Mercury has taught us, all right? Now, I often turn around and say, a clearly defined goal is like going on a holiday. Not just any holiday, I would say a road trip, where you travel by road, Now, I've gone through a lot of road trips. From Bombay, I've driven right down with friends to Kerala. I've gone up north to, Himachal Pradesh and to Uttarakhand. Now, just imagine that if we all wanted to go on a road trip, right? What would we do? I think one of the first things we would do is decide on the destination. And then with today's technology, we would get on our laptops or on our mobiles, okay? And then use Google and probably Google Maps to see what is the distance that we are going to cover. And how long is it going to take? Oh, and where are we going to stop for lunch and breakfast and snacks? Are we going to are we going to have an overnight journey at some other place? Because, let's say if I'm going all the way to Jammu and Kashmir, from Bombay to Jammu and Kashmir, on a one-day stretch is a little too far, all right? I need to take a break in between. So do I take a break at Jaipur or Udaipur? And so you plan all of these things. And then now, if I'm doing a road trip, am I going for only one destination or am I doing a couple of places nearby? And then we have another kind of planning that happens. What are we sightseeing? What are we going to eat? What are we going to shop? Are we just going to do some adventure sports? Are we just going to chill around? What is the weather like? We need to pack clothes accordingly. And now the answers to all of these previous questions is going to decide what is the budget that we're going to have, all right? But now, let's say right now it is about 4:15, and if right now Subash decides I'm going to go on a road trip and I'm going to sit in my car, where do I go? It sounds a little funny. It sounds actually ridiculous. It doesn't make sense, of me going right now, sitting in the car just because I want to go for a road trip and not have anything planned. I have not packed accordingly. I may have the money, but I have not already kept a budget in mind. I don't know what's going to happen, all right? And what Farrukh has taught me especially is that you need to have a clearly defined goal, all right? Let me tell you about another story, all right? In July of 1945, okay, there was this Swedish gentleman, Gunther Haag, right, who broke the world record for the 1 mile run. Okay, in a 1 mile, coincidentally, is 1.6 kilometers. And the world record that he had was he clocked 4 minutes, 1.4 seconds. Now, if you were to actually go through the list of world records, all right, for about 10 to 15 years, people were trying to get near to the 4-minute mark, right? And there was a big discussion on whether or not you can break what was known as the 4-minute mile. Now, the 4-minute mile is if you clock less than 4 minutes in running the mile. And everybody said, not at all possible. Okay? And people tried, and people tried, and people tried. So this was in 1945, and 9 years later, people were still trying. But then, at one championship, okay, there was one particular gentleman, his name was Roger Bannister, okay, and this is him, sorry. Roger Bannister, on the 6th of May 1954, he not only broke the world record, but he also was less than 4 minutes in running the mile. So he broke the 4-minute mile. And he clocked this in 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. Right? Now, what happened at this point of time? At this point of time, people thought this was a ridiculous record. This was, of course, a big achievement. Because for more than 15, 20 years, people have been trying to go below the 4-minute mark. And you see how people's mindsets work. Just before Roger Bannister, broke this record, everybody was convinced, as a human, not possible. Absolutely not possible. And look what he did. All right? Now, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 64 odd years since this record was broken, okay, the 4-minute mile. And in these last 64 years, this record has been bettered, okay, 18 times. All right? So the current record is at about 3 minutes and around 40 seconds. All right? So in fact, they said if the current winner, the current record holder, who's a Moroccan, if he were running the same race with Roger Bannister, there would be a 100-meter gap between them. All right? But now I want to question you something. All right? Forget that we have a record today of 3 minutes, close to 40 seconds. All right? At that particular point of time, when Roger Bannister was running, okay, everybody had a firm belief you cannot break it. And if Roger Bannister did not break the record, probably till today, we would still have that firm belief that breaking the 4-minute mile is absolutely not possible. So what have we learned? We have learned that most of the times our limiting beliefs, it's not just because of us. It's because of every Tom, Dick and Harry that we associate ourselves with. A lot of times, it's not just my belief, because you see what is happening is I run to my close friends and colleagues and my family members and I seek their opinion. I will talk a little bit about, opinion of the crowd a little later on and how it helps in, forming our beliefs. Okay? But with Roger Bannister, the one thing that we can learn is you have to challenge the limiting belief. There is nothing today that can actually be set in stone. All right? Persistence is what makes us better. All right? If you do not challenge a belief, all right, it just doesn't make sense. All right? I'm going to tell you of another story. All right? Now, this gentleman, all right, his name is Karali Takacs. All right? He, during the 1930s, and you can see him with the piston drawn, he was in the Hungarian army, and he had the world record for the person who would shoot who could shoot well, get the highest points in the men's 25-meter rapid-fire pistol. Right? Now, this was a time when the Second World War was going on. All right? And basically what Karali was trying to do is, because he's won most of the events, championships, the only thing that was escaping him was the Olympic medal, and he wanted the Olympic medal. All right? So he was trying for the 1940 Olympic competition. And during practice one day, well, not for his shooting, but because he was in the Hungarian army, his routine Hungarian army practice sessions, all right, there was a mishap. What basically happened is, because of a mistake, the grenade in his right hand blew off, okay, and it injured his right hand. Now, he is a rapid-fire shooter. He uses his right hand. His right hand is the dominating hand. And now his right hand is useless. He's blown it off. What does he do? He has this dream of getting the gold medal in the 1940 Olympics. Now, his dream was so strong, he now looked at other ways on how he could get a gold medal. And he says, you know what? It says that you need to shoot. It doesn't say which hand. I have my left hand. Now, can you imagine what was going on in Karali's head? All right? His left hand, which is his non-dominant hand, is going to be trained, and because this is something that happened in 1938, in 2 years' time, he's going to train his non-dominant hand to be the best shooting hand in the world. Absolutely not possible. And, somewhere towards, 1939, he happened to go for the national championships. And a lot of shooters over there, turned around and they patted him on the back. They commended him on he having so much courage that, I understand you've blown off your right hand and you're coming here to see, the rapid fire pistol shooting happening. Very, encouraging to see you here. Oh, but we are very sorry. And he's like, hello. And he never shared this idea with anybody that he would use his left hand, And then very tongue-in-the-cheek, he turned and told them, oh, I have not come here to see you all participate. I have come here to participate, and I have come here to win. By the end of the competition, he took the medals. 1940 Olympics, were held. I think it was between Sweden and UK, because it was the end of the Second World War. Karali took the gold medal. 1952, again, it was a joint Olympic session, Summer Olympics. Over there again, he took the gold medal. All right. So his non-dominant hand continued to be so good that he didn't take a gold medal once, but he took it twice. He took it twice. 2 Olympic gold medals minimum. Now, what do we learn from Karali? Is that you need to be persistent. So many a times we fall down. And, because I help a lot of people, I often tell them, when we grow up, we make the mistake of thinking that we are now adults, so we need to think like adults. But actually, a lot of times, we need to start thinking like children. Because you see, when an adult falls, an adult decides, I will never ever go down that path. But when a child falls, why did I fall? And we'll try again, and we'll try again, and we'll try again. And that's how a child learned how to stand. And that's how the child learned how to walk, and then run, and then hop, skate, jump, do all the naughty things that we do today. But if we were to have the child adopt our current adult mindset, the child would never be able to grow. And what Karali is actually turning around and showing us is that life will put you down. And it does not happen for only a select group of people. It happens for everybody. The question is, do you agree that you need to be kept down? You have to actually, they say you fall down, dust off your trousers, and stand up again and start running all over again. So Karali actually shows us that we need to be persistent. We need to have a clear goal. So the first time we said clear goal, and now number 2 we are saying, be persistent. And now this is somehow or the other becoming a winning combination. But still, what does this have to do with, me having my limiting belief? And I will come to that. Right? Now, my third story is about a man that everybody knows about. Okay? I will actually address him in the beginning with his first name, which is Walter. All right? Now, Walter, as a young man, was very, very creative. He had a good hand at artwork, and he would draw a lot of stuff. And then, because America was fighting the Second World War, he believed that, okay, I need to help and serve my country. So he joined the army. And because he was very good in his vocabulary, in speaking, and also in drawing, he used to do some cartoons, for the army magazine and the newspaper. All right? When the war got over and he came back, he was 19 years old. And 19 years old, he and a friend, they became partners in a company. And they said that they are going to actually talk about, cartoons. All right? So they're going to help people with cartoons. They're going to publish cartoons. They're going to do artwork, basically, especially if you want to get your advertisements done on newspapers and magazines. All right? And he was dabbling with a lot of stuff. And that was a time when, motion pictures were actually becoming popular. And he was trying to use that cartoon into motion pictures. It was not working out. They were not making any money. And these two partners, they discussed amongst themselves. And then they decided that because Walter was a little older, Walter needed to go out and work. Now just imagine, I have formed my own company, it's not making money, so now I'm going to go and work for somebody else. And it was still not happening, and then even his business partner had to go outside and work. And then finally, the company went bankrupt. Okay, they were trying their hands with a lot of cartoon stuff, all right? But he didn't give up. So this whole thing lasted about 4 years. He didn't give up, and he had a dream, okay? And the dream was that he wanted to share all that fun out with people because everybody was a little too serious after the Second World War, all right? So what he did is he formed another company, okay? And about 4 or 5 years later, he became a little successful when he got an idea of a nice caricature, an image of an animal. All right. Now, before I tell you what that image was all about, all right, everybody turned around and kept telling Walter, "You are useless. You're a failure. What are you doing with all this kiddish stuff? This is going to get you nowhere. You need to change your field." And everybody kept dissuading him. The second company that he formed 4 or 5 years later started getting noticed because of one cartoon character that he did. The gentleman that I'm talking about, Walter, is Walt Disney. Walter Elias Disney. And the caricature that I'm talking about is actually Mickey Mouse. Yes, is Mickey Mouse. So this is Walt Disney. Okay? Now, over these 8 to 9 years, Walt Disney kept getting rejections. All right? And the one thing that he realized is, people may not have my vision, okay, but I am very clear what I want. All right? Did Walt Disney fail? Well, no. His first company went bankrupt, but did he fail? No, because he dusted his pants and he started another company all over again. He started from scratch all over again. Okay? Even his second company, it was not really successful because for 4 years he kept knocking on doors trying to do stuff. All right? But at the end of the day, he ended up being successful because he had a lot of faith in himself and in his dreams. What we learn from Walt Disney is that you need to know the consequence of failure. If you have a clear vision, if you are persistent and determined, you've got to know, okay, what are the challenges that you're going to face along your way. All right? When I'm saying what is the consequence of failure, it is all about your ability to pick yourself up, okay, every now and then. Let me tell you about myself. When I was a kid, and I'm talking about when I was 8 years old, my dad got me into the habit of reading the Sunday papers, Times of India. All right? And Times of India at that point of time would have one recipe, okay? And that was very interesting. And then my dad said, if you like what you're reading in the newspaper, it's of no use unless and until you actually go ahead and do it. All right? So that Sunday, my dad and myself, we went into the kitchen. I was 8 years old, okay? And I tried cracking an egg to make a fried egg, a sunny side up fried egg. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, for those of you, who actually tried making an egg or breaking an egg, okay, in the beginning it is extremely frustrating. Because if you are too hard, the egg spills out then and there itself on the counter. Okay? If you do it with too much of force, sometimes the eggshells break into small pieces and it falls into the bowl that you're putting it in. And then, it's a tic-tac-toe hide-and-seek game that you're playing to get the eggshell out. All right? And what's worse is if you're trying to make a sunny side fried egg, which is the yolk being intact and not broken, okay? If you have too jagged a shell when it is broken, and from that side you're pouring the egg into the bowl or onto the pan, the yolk will break. So the first Sunday was extremely frustrating, okay? But the second Sunday was better, and I managed to do a fried egg. And then the Sunday after that, I was able to do another fried egg. And as confidence grew, my dad said, hey, there's a omelette recipe on the Sunday Times of India today. Do you want to try that out? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So that 8-year-old boy, okay, got into the kitchen. And, not that I'm very old, I always tell everybody, I'm 24 years old. And they just don't believe me. I don't understand why, But over the years, okay, I have been able to hone my skills in the kitchen. All right? So much so that today I have a website which has 350 of my own original recipes. And I wouldn't have this today. It's just a hobby. I wouldn't have had this today if I didn't keep on trying. Okay? If I didn't actually know the consequence or the extent of my failure. Right? So failure is meant not for us to stop doing what we are doing. Failure is meant for us to stop for a moment, actually pause for a moment, not stop, pause for a moment. Okay? Reevaluate what happened, what went wrong, what I need to correct. Okay? It also helps us to look at the actual problem, or the actual incident in a different light. When you look at your problem or the instance of your failure through different angles, you learn a lot. So we can actually learn a lot from our failure. And that's exactly what Walt Disney did. Because he didn't just stick to actual drawing cartoons on books, but he ended up using different techniques of it into his motion film making later on. So today as kids, we've all grown up on a big dose of Walt Disney cartoons. And Mickey Mouse is like a permanent fixture somewhere or the other. All right? So the question is that we need to understand that we are part of a journey. Okay? But we should continue with the journey even though there will be failure. We cannot say that failure is the excuse for me to not start my journey. The journey always needs to be there. All right? Now, I'm going to tell you about another person, okay, and it's a very brief instance, but we all know that, over the past 2 decades, we've had a couple of major economic crashes, financial slowdowns. All right. Now, during the 2007 and 2008 crash, when a lot of people were saying, remove money from the market, remove money from the market, there was one man that was saying, no, put money in, put money in. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? No guesses? Warren Buffett. Okay? So Warren Buffett turned around and said that when investing, pessimism is your friend. Pessimism is your friend. All right? Now, why is pessimism your friend? Okay? Because you are more cautious. When investing, he also said, euphoria is your enemy. Why? Because when you are extremely happy, you let all your emotions take over you, and you tend to make quite a bit of rash decisions. And he said, when there is an economic downturn, that is the best time to invest, because that's when you get good value for money. You're not getting realistic values, okay, rupee or dollar values, all right? But what you're getting is, the negative values, and it's going to bounce back. It's going to bounce up. Because if you're going to remove money, or if you're not going to put money when the market is down, then when it grows, when are you going to make money? When it is already growing, you're going to invest and you're going to make a little bit money. But the amount of money you're going to make is so much less than when the market was really down. Okay? And that's what Warren Buffett turned around and said, which is why he is consistently one of the richest men on the planet. All right? Now, from Warren Buffett, we can learn, choose a new empowering belief. All right? So what I mean to say is, you need to question the beliefs that you have. So remember I said, you need a clear goal, clear destination. You need to be persistent. You need to keep, the consequences of failure in mind. Now I'm turning around and telling you, choose a new empowering belief. Now, this may not be in sync with what other people believe. This has to be something very unique. This has to be something which is your own. Your gut feeling is talking about it. You see, a lot of times we spend our life with a whole lot of beliefs that we use today, which is not our own. So if you actually sit back and close your eyes and think for just 2 minutes, what are your top 3 beliefs and where did you get it from? Most of the times, these top 3 beliefs are not yours. It's what you have been told growing up. It's what society has put on you. And I'm going to talk about, where all of this comes in. You see, I always believed that there are 2 kinds of people. You have the followers and you have the creators. Okay? The followers are those people who blindly follow. Frankly, I don't care what they say, for 1 minute, 1 second, or even an hour or a day. But, more or less throughout their lives, they are the followers. Right? This is where we have the entire planet sitting at. The 2% are the creators. I'm not saying they are the doers, but they are the creators. And they create new ideas and concepts, and everybody else follows. The creators question everything. If you look at the most successful people, and I'm not talking about someone who's successful for a limited period of time. I'm talking about people like Warren Buffett, who are consistent in generating wealth. I'm talking about people who are consistent in sharing their knowledge. Okay? I'm talking about people who are consistent in leading good examples in their lives for others to follow. If you look at the top 2% people, they are all creators. And there's something that's known as the law of the masses. So what we do, a lot of times when we are in doubt, we ask the people who are close to us. But they are followers like us. They are not risk takers. They are not necessarily thinkers or creators of new concepts and ideas. So basically what happens, it's a classic case, if I may say, of blind leading the blind. Right? A lot of times when I meet people, okay, they come to me because they have baggage. You see, as kids, as teenagers, or during our youth years, we've all faced a lot of issues. We faced emotional abuse, physical abuse, sometimes sexual abuse. Okay? We've been the target of ragging sessions. All right? We've been put down and unnecessarily been commented on by people. A lot of us pick ourselves up and move on in life and don't let it affect us. But many of us do think about these things. And over a span of time, it helps in creating unnecessarily our own limiting beliefs. And you see, when you have these limiting beliefs, you turn around and you ask somebody else, am I this kind of person? Now, usually it's a person who wants to appease you, because you tend to ask your friends, you tend to ask your family, and they are in a fix. Because if they were to answer honestly, you may not like it. But if they were to, be positive and favorable towards the answer to appease you, then you will like it. So the friendship and the family bond is kind of sealed. A lot of times when I meet up with people who've had issues and the family was around that time and they could have actually helped, family members turn around and say, what do you want me to do? How could I help this person? So because they themselves don't have the answers, they turn around and do something which we are all aware of in a very different way. Shh. Keep quiet. Don't tell anybody anything. There's a very popular saying in Hindi, "Ghar ki baat ghar mein hi rehne do." Okay. Another saying in English, don't air out dirty laundry in public. Why? Because you see, I don't have answers to give you at this point of time. And I think I'm going to look very stupid if you get answers from somebody else. And especially if I'm an elder in the family. Now, we are brought up with all of these kind of emotions and feelings, and this is our baggage of the past. And this baggage of the past, helps us in creating our limiting beliefs. Okay? Sometimes limiting beliefs are good at certain phases for us to repair what is going on in our lives. But beyond a point of time, we need to actually question our beliefs. Now, one of the top beliefs that I keep coming across is when the youth, youngsters and the youth, when they interact with me, they keep saying that parents do not want them to leave home. So even if the child gets into a better school or a better college, gets a better job in another place, they don't want the child to leave home. And what happens? Because of that selfishness of me wanting my son or my daughter to stay home with me and for me to behave as an appropriate parent, I am stifling the growth of the child. I am not letting the child, achieve his or her potential or explore his or her potential. Okay? And what happens is this leads to a lot of frustration because that child is now constrained. All right? And to comfort this child, the elders tend to say a lot of things. No. For us, this is who we are meant to be. Do you think we are rich enough to go there? We are not rich people. So we are drilling the thought process that number one is don't dream big. Number two, what we are actually drilling into the person is that, you know, you were born poor, you're meant to continue being poor, and you will die a poor fellow as well. And somehow at the back of our head, because, you know, these kind of behaviors, you know, are ingrained in our heads, over a span of time, you tend to believe it. And over a span of time, subconsciously, you start behaving it. And even if your parents are no more, that child who is now grown up and is married and now has an opportunity elsewhere, what does the child say? No. I have now built my home here. I don't need to go anywhere else. My parents stayed in this place. इस मोहल्ले में थे हम लोग. You know, for so many generations. I'll be here itself. Or, now at this age you want me to go? When I was 16, 17, 18 or 20 years old, when I had opportunities to go out to this place, that place, I didn't go. And now at this age you want me to go? And age is not at all a criteria, because if you actually look at the most successful brand names on the planet, those creators, the creators of those brand names, they were all 40 plus in some way or the other. You know, KFC, okay, was created not by a 20-year-old man, by a man who was well into his retirement, who was fed up of failing every now and then. You know, what was his limiting belief? Can you imagine? I come across so many elderly people who turn around and say, now, you know, now I'm like 70 years old. I think now, in another couple of days, another couple of months, I will go and see him, and then that is it. You all do what you all want. You know, the irony is, I'm even seeing 45-year-old people saying that now. You know, it's just your thought process. Another limiting belief that I keep I keep facing is that, you know, do not air your dirty laundry in public. I should not confront my past. Now, I would say you need to confront your past because it's going to help give you closure. Right? And when you have closure, you have peace of mind. And when you have peace of mind, you're able to think more clearly. I am not saying you need to air your dirty laundry in public. I'm saying confront your past to get closure. It is very common for me to keep hearing of kids who are being sexually abused by family and relations. You know, it is extremely common to come across kids, and I'm using the term kids loosely. It's not necessarily that they are kids, but this was even adults today, but when they were kids, when they were small, okay? And because of excessive beating by the parents or lack of love, okay, they are facing a lot of issues today, right? And the most common thing is, you know, you don't talk about these things. That's another limiting belief, because of which you're not able to perform well. I met a man, you know, who was 42 years old. He looked actually, when I saw him, I thought he was about 55 plus. Okay, but he was 42 years old. He is the second son, all right, and the father was extremely abusive. And when I say abusive, the father used to beat both the sons very badly, used to say a lot of filth, a lot of demeaning words to them, and that's how these two boys were brought up. The elder son, when he started seeing a girl, you know, when he was at marriageable age, they got an alliance for him, an arranged marriage. He started seeing the girl a little bit. They both liked each other. They got married. Within a year, the marriage was on the rocks. Okay, And when I asked the younger brother, why was the marriage on the rocks? He said, because of my father's abusive behavior, my brother couldn't, be a good spouse to his wife. And I said, okay, what about you? And he turned around and said, that made me believe that I am not fit to get married, and I will not get married. Oh, but by the way, I am doing fabulously well in my professional life. I am a very senior manager. I am doing extremely well. And when I asked him, what is your designation? He said he was a purchase manager. And in what company? It was a small company. So just because you've got the manager designation, which today companies hand out to a lot of people, that doesn't make you a very successful person. But this man has to work through all that pain, to shine. Okay? He has to let go of all the past unnecessary limiting beliefs that has been drilled into his head by his father. All of us, at some point of time or the other, have been talked down to. People have misbehaved with us. And I'm not saying all, I'm saying most of us. Okay? And if you actually go through the statistics, it's really alarming, as to what has happened. I also know of another couple, a couple basically, whose marriage was on the rocks, and it was known to be on the rocks 3 months into the marriage. And why? It was because one spouse had issues of the past which was affecting them now in the present. Because you see, it's like building a skyscraper. It's like building a structure. If your foundation is not good, you can't build a tall structure. The deeper the foundation, the stronger the foundation, the taller the building. More time was spent in building the foundation of Burj Khalifa, all right, than actually building the building that we see above the ground today. The foundation needed a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, because the foundation didn't just have to keep the building standing tall, but standing tall through all severe weather conditions. And that's the same thing with our life. The third thing that I would like to say, in terms of limiting beliefs is, and something that is very popular today, okay, is our gender roles. Our gender roles create certain identities which leads to certain beliefs. So let me give you an example. Very classic roles for the male, roles for the female. And we see day by day the walls are breaking down. So I'm going to tell you, do you know what a potluck is? A potluck is where a group of people come together and each one brings a different dish and they all, share the dish so that everybody has a complete meal. And I was at a potluck last month, all right? And during such an occasion when we were sharing the meal and it was time to serve, we decided that we will serve the children first. And there was an 11-year-old boy, all right? And the 11-year-old boy turned around and said, oh, I will not hold the plate. I will hold the plate only when you serve me. So you need to serve me. And he turned and told a lady this. And his mother was in the kitchen. And that lady said, I don't know what's wrong with him. Subash, take the plate and serve him. And he looked at me and he says, oh, you're a man and you're serving. This is a woman's job. And I'm like, what? And then by that time, his mother came out. And that's when I realized his father has been putting the idea into his head that a woman's place is in the kitchen. A woman is the only person who's supposed to buy vegetables, fruits and vegetables, food for the house. A woman is the only person who's supposed to cook. A woman is the only person who's supposed to serve. And a woman is supposed to eat last. And I was not shocked that he said it. I was not shocked that these old, outdated views are still prevalent. in a city like Bombay, I was shocked because his father and his mother were managers in very good MNCs. Now, a lot of times, we say a lot of things when children are around and we think they're not catching on stuff, but they are catching on stuff. But there are a lot of times that, we give very blatant examples and comments which let children formulate these opinions. This boy's father didn't necessarily tell him, but the father's behavior led this boy to believe that it was his right to not be involved in the cooking, in the buying, cooking, and serving process of food. You understand, right? So, before I end today, I want to turn around and tell you is that, to summarize, we all have a lot of limiting beliefs. And we have seen today these 5 beliefs, where number 1, 5 steps of how we need to overcome our limiting beliefs. Number 1 is we need to have clearly defined goals. Number 2 is we need to challenge the limiting belief. Number 3 is we need to be persistent. Right? Number 4, we need to know the consequence of failure. And number 5, we need to choose a new empowering belief. Now, it's a tough world out there, all right? And there are about 7.6 billion people on the planet. But if you were to look at yourself, what are your skills and what is your purpose? And if you were to look at these 7.6 billion people, very easily, you are actually competing with 250 to 500 million people. Because they would have the same kind of skills that you have. They are competing somewhat in the same areas that you are. Though, of course, geographically, they would be at another location. But today, being at another location doesn't matter. Because, technology takes care of everything. If I want to talk to somebody who's on the other side of the world, okay, or if I want you to connect with somebody from my company on the other side of the world, okay, there are no restrictions today. It's a very easy game. All right? Now, when we are competing with so many people, we are competing with 250 million people minimum, okay? Shouldn't we be better than them? And if we have to be better than them, we should not have limiting beliefs. We need to overcome whatever limiting beliefs that we have. What are the strategies that we actually have in place, to overcome the limiting beliefs? And that's what we actually need to look at, right? Please make note, okay, at the end of the day, before you go to sleep today, take 2 minutes. Like I said earlier, think of the top 3 beliefs that you have, all right? And then think about, are those your beliefs? Or have they been entrusted upon you and forced upon you? And if they have been forced upon you, what do you want to do about it? Does it make sense for you to follow it, or do you want to change it? And if you want to change it, what do you want to change it to? So then you need to take a step back and look at your life and see where you're heading. Because if you don't have a very clearly defined goal, it's like me sitting in the car at 4:20, wondering where am I going to, and I've not planned on my road trip destination. All right? So I want you to do this exercise for yourself. And I want you to, share your inputs. All right? I have my... So if you go onto Facebook and you search on my name, which is Subash Sequeira, okay? I also have a website, but on Facebook, search for Subash Sequeira. That is the Google shortener link for my public profile. And then, drop in your comments. Tell me how you like this talk, okay, and what you feel. And what were your limiting beliefs that you have decided to change? And probably a couple of weeks, or a couple of months down the line, if your new belief has actually changed the trajectory of your life, I would like to hear from you about it. All right? So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for giving me a valuable year, and being very patient. And I know it's been more of a monologue, but I am going to wait for your comments and feedback on my Facebook public page so that we can discuss this further and take this to an entirely new set of audience. All right? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.